Hello. So, you guys have finally got me. This is perhaps the biggest request of content over my social media platforms over the past 4 years. And I'm finally ready to share this. Um, Surviving a marriage to a Nigerian pastor. And honestly, I know it's been 4 years, and one may think, why now? First of all, I would like to state that this is not revenge. This is not an expose. This is a woman who simply survived and is sharing her very true and authentic and honest story. Obviously, from my perspective, regardless of that, this is my moment. Okay, this is my moment to milk it. And yes, I will keep it real in saying that. Because this is a widespread conversation right now of what's really happening in certain marital homes. And let me tell you something. I've really practiced how to have so much more boundaries now over what I share online. I'm still very private and secret in a lot of my things because I have to be and I can be. However, and I did do a Substack post about this recently, so do have a read if you want to. I still have a lot of value in my experience and my story. And that value is something that has a lot of purpose. And a girl could only dream that this gets picked up by Netflix or some type of huge production firm because of the level of value that it is. It's so detailed and intricate, and it's going to be over a period of time. It can't be all in this one video, just so you know that. But I never wanted to do this video or share this story on my social media platforms. I guess a girl can only dream that Netflix picks it up, or I get to sit on a huge podcast and share my story, or write a book and make it become a bestseller. But as I said, the value is there, and regardless, it starts here on the internet, on my home, on my channel. And yes, I do have two channels. I'm active now on Chanel's House, which is my second channel. So as I said, this is part one. You may want to subscribe and stay tuned. Although I'm collaborating it with my main channel, you're going to be able to get the feedback and stuff of my second channel, Chanel's House. So please do subscribe over there. Why 4 years later am I speaking about this? Well, apart from what I recently mentioned, and yes, an absolute opportunity for me to capitalize off this. Absolutely, yes. And I think I'm very much due and owed that. I'm owed even more than that, but who's going to pay me? Despite that, it's not what it's about, but I know my critics out there will potentially put that out there. So I just wanted to be the first to let you know that yes, what you're thinking is correct. It's my story to tell at the end of the day, from my perspective, regardless. I could have my choice and just go away and continue living my life, starting it from scratch and rebuilding. Now that I've moved back to London, I'm very much at peace, and I have restructured my life so that it's simplified and manageable. But I would love to just have moved on and be like, oh, that was life. That was a portion of my life. However, I'm reminded by God that I am a leader. I am a queen mother as well. I'm a cultural ambassador. And more than that, I have a global audience of women who have been in my position or perhaps are still in. And knowing all of that and understanding all of that, it's not just about the tea you're getting, because I know this is one to share amongst your church WhatsApp group once I share a lot of information I'm about to. But despite that, this is for the woman who has been afraid and who has felt ashamed or embarrassed. the woman who feels that her voice is not relevant, and it's not important, and the woman who absolutely is feeling trapped, exactly like how I have been feeling up until this point, where, if you've noticed, I'm being a bit more brave now, because that is who I am. That's certainly the woman I've developed myself to be, and who I've been longing to become all this time, where I'm my authentic self, speaking my authentic truth, and no longer protecting anybody who I don't need to protect. I don't need to protect someone I'm no longer tied to in that regard. I don't. And yeah, perhaps I am being a bitch, actually. Yeah, I'll take that. How dare you say all that? Listen, I said this is not an expose. It's my story. And it's my story that I know, and I'm certain that it's going to help someone out there, or many women out there, or for the most part, have this conversation. Because when I'm seeing a woman lose her life and that of her daughters, okay, Zandile is a very recent story that's happened in Bedfordshire, and I'm seeing Barbara Tomey being murdered by her pastor husband. I'm realizing how much I actually am a survivor, because this story, or my story, covers a lot. It was emotional abuse, it was financial abuse, it was domestic violence that could have ended me. And so me sitting here today is an absolute miracle. And the silent attacks is something that no one was ever able to see, because all they saw was me coming and smiling all the time, acting like everything was okay. I have to get past the fear of not only being ashamed to share my story, but the fear of people judging and criticizing me and calling me a liar, when, you know, this is what happens to a lot of women who are silently going through something. The moment she speaks out, there's questions. Whilst there has been evidence of women who have not necessarily been real about their story, I guarantee you the majority of women are being honest. And I am definitely one of those. But regardless, not everyone may see that. And I have to get over the fact that me holding this back, and this is a lot of the feedback I've been getting over the years, is, Chanel, you're holding back. My close friends and family, even before I've done this video, my manager said, Chanel, I don't know why all this time you haven't shared this story. And so when I put out the Netflix challenge of the documentary on Netflix, and I got the feedback that I did from my supporters and tea-sippers, but it's okay. We're all here to see. This is going to cover a lot of people. This is going to be gossip for you, if that's what it is. And it's going to be awareness. And regardless of what it does, it's out there on my channel. And I think this is a perfect opportunity, now that we're having this conversation, for us to just keep it real. So, yes, that was a very long introduction. Very long. But I don't want to miss out the majority of what I have to. So I'm ready to speak on this. I never always wanted to marry, as in it wasn't something that a young girl dreams of, you know, of her big white wedding day and, you know, having her bridesmaids and flower girls. It's something that I couldn't see for myself growing up. And I tell you why. Part of it was because I was a big kid, okay? Overweight, and as a child hearing, you know, when someone is going to have a wedding, oh, I'm going to lose weight, and always having this weight struggle and knowing that I don't know if my day will ever come. So let me not even think about that. I always wanted to be a mother, definitely, but I didn't think that I will ever be worthy of having a man who valued me and my character and my beauty, or whatever the case, if I ever became beautiful someday. But I was involved in a church that really installed into me the importance of marriage. And you know what? I don't think it's a bad thing to do so, because marriage can be a beautiful institution, absolutely, if you are doing it with the right intentions and everybody's on board. This particular church, I outgrew. And what happened is I was under a lot of control in that church. That's a story for another day. It's actually nothing to do with this, but just so you can see the lead up to where I came from. At the time, I was a single mother to my son, my eldest son, and I was going through a lot. But I found myself again within that period. I remember this is where I started, I was doing freelance makeup artistry. I was really building an online platform, and I was becoming a very successful household name as someone in the beauty spaces. And I really put into my body of work, which I was a makeup artist at the time, and starting YouTube and stuff. It's about, 16 years ago. I really poured into myself and I started to become creative. I lost a lot of weight. Okay. I went on the Cambridge diet and I lost about, I went from a size 22 to about a size 16 to 18. And so when you get that power, this is what happens when a woman really pours into herself, or even outpours by being creative, by doing all these extra and exciting stuff that heals her. Then she has a glow up. And I remember after that period having a glow up. And this is where YouTube was born. This is where Thierry Monet would have the gorgeous patterned bodycon dresses, and I will run out and buy them. This is when Jenny Jenkins was doing her hair, and I'll go and get bendy rollers. And it was really the most exciting time for me as a single mother at the time. And so I came to this new ministry when I left that previous ministry as a whole and a new woman. A lot of you guys will know the ministry that I attended. I went to the branch in Wembley. I don't believe it's there anymore, but I did go there. And again, I went at a very different phase of my life. This is the phase of my life that I'm actually in now, the creative phase, where I'm out and focused and doing me and really building to the point where I might outgrow my usual settings or standard, where I'm now feeling empowered and ready for the next move in life. And very quickly, this is where I met him. And when you do work on yourself, you attract everything. You attract the good, the bad, and the ugly. At the time, it obviously didn't seem anything bad. In fact, I wouldn't even class it as bad. But what I would say and take accountability for is I actually do have to even apologize for people who was criticizing me at the time, saying you're moving too fast, you're being naive, Chanel, slow down. Some family members, including my sister, was like, this ain't it. And I was like, no, you have no idea. This is the man of my dreams. He's a pastor. He's a leader in a church. And as for that pastor thing, we'll talk about it in a minute, because in Kuyi, I will talk about it in a minute, Ghana, for you understand what I am saying. But here we are. I finally connected or found somebody who accepted me. And yes, at that time I had lost weight. I was a size 16 to 18, remember? Contrary to the comments on my marriage versus divorce post on Instagram, I didn't meet him at that size. My subscribers on YouTube at the time was about 18,000 subscribers. And I remember that number specifically because the main pastor of the church, he was very fascinated by that, because he really wanted to develop his online stuff. And he was like, 18,000 subscribers is amazing. And I remember us being in the music room, talking with our pastor about that. And my ex literally said she thinks that when we're married, that she's going to continue with this. Here I am today. And I would say it moved extremely fast. And I would say my loved ones and even some people who may have not known me that well, but found it an opportunity to gossip about me and stuff, they did criticize the fact that I was moving very quickly with this individual. And to be honest with you, it's something I regret in terms of the pace that I was moving, but I had been very naive. I hadn't had a lot of relationships, actually. Even up till now, I haven't had a lot of men. And so I guess for me, I'm just like, I want this chapter of my life to happen. And this fella seems pretty much into me, and I've never felt that before. There was more than enough evidence in my grown mind now to see that a lot of it was a facade. A lot of it was not real or honest, but rather me just ignoring that and saying, regardless, we can work on it. And that's what happens in a lot of Christian marriages. They can see the red flags, but you're praying for things to change, if anything, or it can develop. And you know what? Sometimes that might be the case. Anyway, I remember the day that they were going to announce my wedding, and he was a leader in the church. I've put it as pastor, but he was never ordained as a pastor. In fact, he didn't actually tell us the truth. He didn't tell me the truth. When he first met me, he said he was a pastor, and he said that to my parents. But later on the line, he wasn't actually ordained. He was never called Pastor so-and-so. He never had a own church with a following or a congregation. And so essentially we were lied to. And for me, I always went along with it because I knew his aspirations were to be that. And you know how it goes. We manifest, isn't it? Exactly who we want to be. We say it is, even if it's a lie. Even if you're not making the efforts to even getting there, we're going to say that's who you are, and that's going to be the story. And for me, I just wanted to support that, if anything, because I guess I saw where the potential lied, where it came to being a pastor. Anyway, the day of my wedding announcement was something else. Obviously, this was discussed behind the scenes with the main pastor of the church at the time. And after the announcement happened, I had a girl come up to me. She was one of the choir members, and her energy was off, but she was like, "Oh, congratulations. Anyway, he wanted to date me." I said, "Really?" Oh, because bear in mind, they had been in the church for a hot minute. Like, it had been a few years of them knowing themselves, and I had just reached. It had only been about a month or so at this time. And I'm here coming to take the youngest, most, I guess, nicest one out of the bunch, you know. And yeah, he was very good looking, actually. He's not a bad looking person. I mean, my son is an evidence of that. My son is gorgeous. And he looks just like him, doesn't he? So, yes, the young and the handsome one out of everyone who the choir girls perhaps were eyeing or had been speaking to. Who knows what had happened before I touched down. But at the end of the day, I had this young lady come up to me to say that. And I actually remember that girl. She had been going through a lot, actually, in her relationship. She was being abused severely, physically and everything. At some point, she opened up to me and told me that and stuff, and we became friends. But I'll never forget that. And when I confronted him about that, he always avoided sharing the truth of what that is. Had I known what that was at the time, I think my future with him would have definitely had not gone where it ended up going. But anyway, here we are. My father did not come to my wedding. When I did introduce my partner to him, he was okay with him, but he had some questions. And you know, my dad is a Ghanaian man, or was a Ghanaian man. My father recently passed away, as you perhaps may know. But he is an Akan to the fullest degree, and he understands the power or what a man is required to do in a home. you know, he was very respectful of what I wanted at the end of the day, my father. But at the same time, he just had a feeling. And so, on my wedding day, my dad refused to come. My dad never came to my wedding. And if I ever get married again, he will never come because obviously he's gone now. He didn't like my ex-husband at all. And because of the history of my dad, I kind of didn't listen to him because he hasn't been perfect. But let me tell you something. At the end of the day, a man knows a man. And what men do is they protect who they love the most, such as their daughters. They'll protect their daughters because they don't want for their daughter to end up with somebody like them or somebody that they know is like that. Not necessarily my dad, because they're definitely two different people, if I'm being honest. But I also had been at a very weird space with my dad over the years at that point because of, you know, family matters that I just couldn't trust his judgment. And so I knew what I wanted and I went for it. And on the day of my wedding, my mum, who could have walked me down the aisle, the church stopped her from because she's a woman. So the church said that my mum couldn't walk me down the aisle because she's a woman. And so who ended up walking me down the aisle was my cousin Nana, who's obviously a male. From the moment I met the guy to my wedding day, it was over a period of, let's say, 4 months. And from the wedding announcement to the actual wedding day, it was about 2 months. We had little to no budget. I, at the time, was getting very little from YouTube or whatever I was doing. So if anything, my income was benefits. I didn't have any money at that point, and neither did he. And I am saying that because I was given a completely different picture when we first met and when we were courting. It was revealed to me, he shared with me his home and a car and what he did for a living. Later on, I found that all of that was false, apart from the home he was living in, which was obviously rented. The car that was outside his house, he didn't drive. He couldn't drive. He didn't know how to drive it. And then his occupation wasn't exactly what it was either. It was something that was quite in a very lower league, if I should put it that way. Okay? Go figure. But either here or there, when I found that and I confronted all of these things, I got a nonchalant response. And quite often that was always the case. And here I am like a mad woman, if anything, just saying, why would you do that? Why are you not being honest? Why is all of this so blurred? Why is this a lack of transparency? Nonchalant. I'm humble and quiet. I don't need to respond to that. I'm private. This is the person who I was going to marry. Someone who didn't want to share anything with me or be honest. And so, regardless of that, I went ahead with it. There's a real specific reason as well that pushed us down the aisle as quick as we had to get down it. And I'm not going to say it, but comment below, if anything. Guess what that would have been as to why this Christian marriage had to happen very quickly. I'll leave for you guys to fill in the gaps. And perhaps if I do get a significant response from that, I will do a separate video on that, because I'm at the stage now that I'm free. I'm actually free to speak on this. As long as I know the details I'm putting out there is going to, be beneficial. And I can still withhold my privacy from sharing certain information because I'm not ashamed. Anyway, speaking of this Christian marriage, therapy, and how did that go? let's say there was none. The church really did pressure us to get married quickly, you guys, to the point where we had one counseling session from a woman who I now, or eventually I found that the woman who was giving us this counseling from the church, she had actually had a divorce. And she, not like I can't learn from someone who's divorced, absolutely you can, but she was one of the people that she was quite close with my ex-partner. They were friends, called themselves brothers and sisters or whatever. But oftentimes, if there was ever an issue, and this is during our marriage and whilst we attended this church, he will always favor her or the church over me. I was always perhaps the problem. If I did see anything that wasn't quite it and I called it out, it was like, shh, we don't discuss that, or no, you're wrong, and made to feel like I'm kind of going mad for seeing what I'm seeing. And so when I clap back with my vim, as an Ashanti woman does, I am the problem, or I've been the one that is causing an issue. And again, I'm just sharing with you the very beginning stages of what led to where it's become. And all I'm saying is there was a lot of rushing. There was a lot of religious intent to make this union a thing, not a deeply spiritual and mature process that needs to happen when you are joining with a significant other. It was very much based on protecting their culture rather than mine. I'm a Ghanaian and I'm an Ashanti woman, and we may or may not know that the Ashanti women, we hold so much power in our culture because we are the ones who inherit. In fact, me being on the throne as a queen in my family, that inheritance comes through my maternal bloodline. And so theirs is the complete opposite. That's what I'm trying to say. And if you are Nigerian, you can confirm that in terms of everything is paternal, and it is mainly about the man and him getting his victory and essentially what he wants. And often there was this back and forth and pull because, first of all, my spirit refused a lot, but not refused enough. Bear with me. It didn't refuse enough for me to discern quick enough that what I was getting into was me essentially signing up for a death sentence. In the next part of this video, or the story, part 2, 3 or 4, girl, I don't know where we're going with this. Obviously you would hear and see a lot more of that, but just know that this is the beginning of what ended up being an absolute catastrophe. And so, yeah, stay tuned, stay subscribed, stay blessed, and you'll see me soon. Piao.